It would trap what the officials found.
It's 1 p.m. in Baghdad. It is 7 p.m. in Tokyo. I'm Monita, Rajpal. This is CNN, and you're watching World One live from London. No deal on day one, but talks aimed at resolving a dispute over Iran's nuclear activities are going into a second day in what could be the best opportunity for a breakthrough in years. Iranian officials on Wednesday met representatives of the P5+1 countries. That's the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council and Germany. Mohammed Jamjoon is following the developments for us in Baghdad. He joins us now live. So, Mohammed, no deal there on day one, but what are people saying, or officials behind the scenes saying about what could potentially happen on day two?
Well, Monita, there seems to be some renewed signs of hope right now. What appeared to be very much a
thank you for that. Mohammed Jamjoon there for us in Baghdad, and we do apologize for the sound quality there in the picture image from Baghdad. We want to see what newspapers around the world are saying about this, and starting here in Britain with the Daily Telegraph with this headline: progress of sorts, but the negotiators have a long road to travel. Speaking of that meeting in Baghdad, this analysis piece goes on to say it was hardly the stuff of breakthroughs, yet by the modest standards of diplomacy with Tehran, the fact that the two sides talked in detail about what divides them counted as progress of sorts. In the UAE, the National has a comment piece under this headline: Tehran's expectations exceed the possible in Baghdad talks. And it says the agenda for Baghdad is only an initial set of confidence-building measures. The Baghdad talks will probably require one or more additional meetings before any concrete results can be nailed down. And in the Wall Street Journal, this headline: getting a good deal with Iran. It's a guest editorial written by American Senators Lindsey Graham, Joseph Lieberman, and John McCain, and it says we must not allow these talks to become a movie we've seen before, in which success is defined less by the outcome of negotiations than by their mere perpetuation. It is the second and final day of voting in what is being called Egypt's first truly free presidential election. 11 candidates are in the running, and yesterday officials extended the polling hours to make sure people got a chance to cast their ballot. Ben, thank you. Ben Wiedemann there in Cairo. You are watching World One live from London. Still to come, too close for comfort. Jordan says it's worried about the Al-Qaeda threat on its doorstep. A year that shook governments and unseated dictators. Amnesty International's Human Rights Report describes 2011 as a year of protest as millions of people took to the streets demanding change. Some of them got their wish. We got people in Tunisia and Egypt demonstrating, and they succeeded in toppling their leaders, victories that ignited the Arab Spring and inspired protesters around the world. But in Azerbaijan, the people took to the streets there, the capital Baku, to demand more freedom and less corruption. It still waits to be seen what happens in that country. Well, in Europe, there were rallies calling for political and economic change, which were held in Moscow, in Athens, and also here in London. And then when we take it across the Atlantic to the United States, the Occupy Wall Street movement transformed financial districts into protest camp. And then we take you back then to beyond North Africa. There were demonstrations in Senegal, Sudan, and Uganda, and Central Africa as people came out to demand freedom and justice. But many of those protests ended with violence, imprisonment, and torture as the world's tyrants struck back with an iron fist. Amnesty International is calling on Western leaders not to stand idly by while human rights are trampled, warning that all too often politics is being put ahead of people.
Too often, long-standing political alliances have trumped human rights.
There's a growing concern in Jordan about Al-Qaeda's influence in neighboring Syria. CNN's Barbara Starr is in Jordan, and she's spoken exclusively to the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security about how Jordan is responding to that Al-Qaeda threat. And Barbara joins us now live from the Jordanian capital, Amman. Barbara.
Hey, good morning. It's you see, it's windy out here. That wind coming.
That's okay, Barbara. Thank you very much for that. We appreciate that. Barbara Starr there in Amman. You're watching World One live from London. They were safe from the threat of radiation, but now people in cities across Japan are worried they may be in danger. Contaminated rock from a quarry next to the crippled Fukushima nuclear plant has been shipped across the region, and as CNN's Kyung La reports, it has ended up in concrete in cities that thought they were safe from the nuclear disaster.
It's not just the apartment building. The contaminated rock from the quarry made its way to nearly 1,000 different locations across this entire region.
You're watching World One live from London. European leaders say they will stand by Greece, but Greece must stand by their European Union leaders are standing by Greece, while diplomats on the sidelines are making backup plans in case Athens bails out of the euro. EU leaders met in Brussels on Wednesday and came out with a clear message. The EU will stand by Greece. There's one obstacle to that. Germany is dead set against Eurobonds, saying sharing the Eurozone's debt burden would not encourage fiscal discipline from those nations in the deepest trouble. Emily Rubin joins us now with more. And Emily, what actually was achieved last night?
Well, Monita, don't forget, this was an informal summit. It was never meant to be ground.
Emily Rubin here in our London newsroom with that. We want to turn now to another Euro story of sorts, though. This time it's the Eurovision, the song contest. In just 2 days' time, the lights will go up and 100 million people will be watching Azerbaijan, the host of this year's Eurovision contest. The annual competition is the biggest global TV event outside sport, but this year there is concern about what is happening off stage. Azerbaijan has one of the world's worst records on human rights, so should it be hosting the show at all? CNN's Atika Schubert brings us this report. Well, Atika Schubert joins us now here on set with me. And Atika, a lot of people have been talking about the Eurovision contest and the controversy surrounding it with Azerbaijan now, and they're comparing it to Bahrain and the Formula One there. And a lot of people saying that this could be an opportunity to actually shine a spotlight on the country. May not necessarily be the spotlight that the country wants, but at least we're talking about it.
Well, that's exactly what some of the activists are saying. I mean, Emin Milli, who was the blogger that I spoke to, he spent time in prison, and he said he wanted to see the contest there, but he wanted people to know it's not just all about the fun and the music and so forth. He wants people to know what's happening behind the scenes.
The shining lights of the contest. All right, Atika, thank you very much for that. Well, Baku may be deemed worthy of hosting Eurovision, but what about the 2020 Olympic Games? Azerbaijan's capital signed up as the Games 2020 venue. We're talking about Azerbaijan's Eurovision controversy, and the country has also suffered a sporting disappointment. Alex Thomas is here to tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, Monita. Well, this is a country that prides itself on its proactive PR, but Azerbaijan's attracted the wrong sort of headlines this week.
Speaking of the 2020, you mentioned the short list, and we have what you were saying. There was Tokyo, Istanbul, and Madrid. Madrid, they can't afford it. I mean, it's expensive enough. Well, it's expensive to put on the games, but to even campaign for the games, that must cost a lot of money.
We told you they had dropped Baku and Doha.
Yeah.
The reason they dropped Baku is they were just worried about it's such an ancient city with beautiful architecture.
Yeah, something positive to look forward to. All right, Alex, thank you very much. You're watching World One live from London. Coming up, the head of the U.S. Secret Service says his agents were reckless and did dumb things during a visit to Colombia for a presidential summit last month. Mark Sullivan was called to testify at a Senate hearing looking into allegations that 9 members of the Secret Service have been dismissed over the incident in Cartagena, Colombia, which took place back in April. A daredevil British stuntman has pulled off a truly unique feat. Gary Connery jumped out of a helicopter at a height of more than 700 meters without a parachute. He landed safely on top of a pile of cardboard boxes, blue skies, sunshine, and not a cloud in sight. So it made for that free fall a pretty picture. Europe is enjoying a mini summer, but everyone asks, Mari, how long will it last?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I think for you guys in the extreme western side of Europe, I think you have a couple of more days to go. I think it should be okay. But even as we head into areas across in extreme northern Europe, even as we head, look at Hurricane Bud. Back to you.
All right, Mari, thank you very much for that. You are watching World One live from London. I'm Monita. Rajpal, thank you for joining us. We'll update you in the news headlines at the top of the hour right here on CNN.